This class is primarily in voice, though I do use a note card reader as well. I hope you can all hear me. We also use a texture board at the front of the class that you can follow along on now. You can click on the Firestorm class notes and first aid kit box at the front here. It has some t-shirts made for us to give out, as well as a bunch of other stuff, and the class notes for all of our classes. The class notes do get updated semi-regularly, so you may want to grab a fresh copy. If you've been to a class in the last 7 weeks, in this case, you're good to go. If you're having trouble reading the text from the note card reader, you can open your preferences, go to the color tab, and change the color for objects to something that's more legible for you. And to adjust voice volumes, go to the COM menu, click on Nearby Voice to open the Nearby Voice panel, and from there you can adjust individual volumes by the slider. Before we get started though, I'd like everyone to take a look at the Help menu. And those of you that have been to a class know this, some may not if you haven't been to one. Did you know that all menus and submenus will detach and stay open if you click on the double lines at the top of the menu? This makes it much simpler to check and uncheck options, as well as remember and uncheck anything you happen to click on, either by mistake or to see what it does. And there are a couple things that I feel should be mentioned in the Help menu. The first being the Firestorm Wiki link, which most people can access simply by pressing F1. If you're on a Mac or a laptop, you may need to press F1. If that does not work for you, you have some sort of software mapping your keyboard, and you'll just have to do it through the menu. We have a lot of documentation on our wiki and a troubleshooting section that has answers to most of the problems that people experience. And secondly, about Firestorm. This opens the About Firestorm window, which shows your sysinfo as well as the credits and licensing information. Team members, and only team members, have the ability to ping you for that sysinfo in an IM. You do get a dialogue asking you to send it or decline. If you get a request to send it, please do so, as that information can help us figure out what's going on and potentially solve your problems. So welcome to our Firestorm Preferences 103 class, based on our 4.0 FUI release. We're going to be going over some of our preferences. In particular, we're going to cover the Move and View, Dialogue Alerts, Advanced, User Interface, Skins, and Firestorm tabs. I will try to explain what these preferences do, as well as make suggestions as to what we suggest for some settings. In most cases, there will be no suggestion, as it's a matter of what works best for you. If you have questions about the topic we're on, please put them in local chat. Text is best during the class. Voice is quite welcome after the class, and we will answer as soon as we can. If you have off-topic questions, please wait until after the class. We are usually around for half an hour or more after the class. So let's get started. Control P, or the avatar menu in the top left. Click on Preferences, will open your preferences. And we are going to start on the Move and View tab. In particular, we're going to start on the View subtab. So Preferences, Move and View, View subtab. At the top we have View Angle. This affects your camera's field of view, how many degrees you see. Distance will change the distance that the camera will follow your avatar, or lead it if you have the camera set so that it's in front of your avatar. Transition time. This affects the speed at which your camera will reset when returning to your avatar after camming out. So you cam out and you reset your camera. That affects the amount of time it takes for the camera to get back to your avatar. Smoothing will smooth camera position over time and allow greater camera freedom. This allows you to move your camera further away from your avatar. This is the same as in the top menu. Advanced disable camera constraints. Changing it here changes it there as well. And then we have automatically pose avatar during, and you can select one or more here. Build or edit. When this is selected, the camera automatically moves to center on the object that you're editing. And appearance. This is set by default. When this is selected, the camera automatically zooms in on your avatar. When you enter appearance mode, it also automatically focuses as you select different body parts and clothing tabs. You can deselect this to leave the camera where it is, as well as to not assume the position while you're in appearance. By assuming the position, you're standing there with your legs and arms outstretched, looking like the cops have pulled you over and are frisking you down. If you deselect this, the pictures in the appearance tab that show the different variations will show you from behind though. To the right of that, there is add additional lighting. You can check this for the extra lighting effect when you're in appearance. It does require the automatically pose appearance option enabled, and it really doesn't add more, it just gives you the option of turning it off. Show avatar in mouse look is next. This will allow you to see yourself when you're in mouse look, not your entire avatar. But if you were to look down, you would see your feet, for example, or any other parts that's happen to be in the way. Show mouse look instructions will show the press escape key to exit mouse look message when you go into mouse look. And then we have the mouse look mouse sensitivity slider. This affects how far your avatar turns in mouse look. Moving the slider to the right will cause your avatar to turn further when you move your mouse with the same amount of mouse movement. And then there's a checkbox here for invert. This makes your mouse work backwards in terms of up and down movement. People have asked during the class why you would do that. It's perfect for flying a plane. Pushing your mouse forward is like pushing the stick forward and makes you go down. Any questions about the view subtab here in the move and view? Okay, Aloe, what's the question? Don't be shy about asking questions. If I'm talking about something and you have a question, just start typing it out. There's no need to wait for me to ask for questions. The top options do? Yes. The posing? Yes, it does. The camera will zoom in. If you have that enabled, the camera will zoom in on whatever part you happen to be dealing with and focus on your avatar. You're quite welcome. So, let's move on to the movement subtab. So we're still on move and view, but we're now on the movement subtab. Arrow keys always move me. This lets your arrow keys always move you around. Straightforward. Next is use a Azerty keyboard layout. This uses a keyboard layout suitable for keyboards with the Azerty layout. This setting does require a restart. For those of you that are curious, the Azerty keyboard is basically used in France and Belgium. Then we have tap, tap, hold to run. Allows you to double tap and hold the up arrow key to run. Fly and land on holding up or down. This allows holding the up or down button to fly or land. And then play sound effect when teleporting. Allows you to hear the teleport sound effect. If you like the whoosh, have it on. If you don't like the whoosh, turn it off. Always fly after teleporting. This will put your avatar in fly mode after a teleport. This one can be handy if you go to some place on a regular basis that's very busy with a landing point and you wind up getting stacked up 6 high and doing the funky chicken flail. By having fly enabled after a teleport, you don't do that funky chicken flail and you can just fly off to the side and land. And then we have a drop-down menu, single click on land. Clicking on a spot on the ground can either do nothing or cause you to walk to that spot. Personally, I hate that one. I click on the screen and walk there, so I leave that one on nothing. And the next one is double click on land. And double clicking a spot on the ground can do nothing, cause you to walk to that spot, double click autopilot, or teleport you to that spot. That's your double click teleport. And then we have a joystick configuration button here. This opens a window where you can change the setting for other input devices like a space navigator, a gamepad, a joystick. We're not going to go into details on that. This is straight from Linden Lab code. You can actually check it on their knowledge base. Any questions about the movement subtab? That's the up and down arrow keys on your keyboard. No, that's not the page up and page down, Vicky. That's the arrow keys if you have them on your keyboard. Or, wait a minute, no, you're right. Page up, page down. I'm wrong. See, I make mistakes. I haven't had enough tea yet today. That's my excuse, folks. See, that's why I have Letta here, so she can correct me. Okay, so let's move on to the Firestorm subtab. So we're still in Move and View, but on the Firestorm subtab. At the top here, we have camera options. Clicking your avatar keeps camera position. When this is enabled, clicking on your avatar will focus the camera on the point that you click on your avatar. I use this one to check my prim feed out on occasion. I'll click on my feet, zoom in, away I go. Reset camera position after a teleport within a region will reset the camera to behind the avatar after a teleport. And this one, disable minimum camera zoom distance. This allows the camera to zoom as far in as you want, allowing you to actually see inside prims. If anybody wants an example of this to see it work, focus on my head and zoom in till you're right inside my head, and you'll see that I actually do have a brain inside my avatar's head. It's rather small and pink, and I don't see much activity out of it. It doesn't always work well, as I've just proven, but this avatar does have a brain. Next comes allow the camera to move without constraints through prims. If enabled, it will not keep your camera view on the same side of a prim as your avatar. For example, if you put your back against a wall with this enabled, you would see the other side of the wall. With it disabled, your avatar, your camera position would pop right up over your avatar's head and you would still see inside. And that's a great trick for seeing in enclosed spaces. The downside to it is if you're out someplace in the open and somebody walks behind you, your camera will bounce forward because they're probably wearing prim hair and it'll bounce. Enable mini-map rotation. When this is enabled, the mini-map will rotate when your avatar turns. Think of it as having a compass in your hand in your turn. And display a ring on the mini-map, indicating a local chat range. It lies. It actually adds 2 rings on the mini-map that show local chat range and shout range. Next is show extended information in hover tips. If this is enabled, hover tips will show details about the object your mouse is over, such as the owner, prim count, etc. Otherwise, it will just show the object name with a little information dot on it. More about extended information in hover tips later. Hover tips are actually enabled in the user interface tab, and we will get to that tab. Show avatar group titles in hover tips does exactly that. If you have them on. Turn avatar around when walking backwards. When you walk backwards, pressing the down arrow key or using your movement controls, this makes your avatar appear to turn around and walk forward. When you release, it'll stop and turn back to face the original position. Then we have filter duplicate landmarks on the world map. If this is enabled, duplicate landmarks are filtered out of the landmarks drop-down menu on the world map. I don't know if anybody here uses the world map to teleport to their landmarks. The world map does show your landmarks. However, it doesn't show just the ones in your landmarks folder. It shows every landmark in your inventory. So if you've gone to a store and bought out their entire collection of shoes, for example, and they put a landmark in every box, every folder that you have those shoes in will have that landmark. This filters them out. It's very handy if you use the world map to teleport to your landmarks. Show additional region information on the world map. This adds the region's maturity rating and the number of people presently on it to the world map. Any questions about this tab? Which is my excuse for a drink of tea because I'm starting to dry out. And since Nozomi's typing, I got a second drink of tea on this. Okay, Nozomi, very simple reason, because that's the way it was decided. No matter which way we set a preference on default, somebody's not going to like it. So, on that one, I think a coin was tossed. I honestly don't remember. Alrighty, so let's move on. And we're going to go to the Dialog Alerts tab. And there's a Tell Me section at the top, and here you can enable or disable. When I spend or get Linden dollars, you can enable this to show transaction info. And if you do that, then there is Show Linden dollar transactions in nearby chat instead of toasts, which will do exactly that. Next one is when a landmark has been created. When this is enabled, you will be notified when you make a new landmark. Otherwise, it just happens silently. The landmark window doesn't open up. and it's just in your inventory. And then when someone changes their display name, you don't like seeing messages about people changing their display names, make sure it's off. If you're curious and want to know when somebody changes their display name, simply turn it on. And then there is when I have script errors in. And you can enable showing script errors in either nearby chat or in a separate window. Actually, it's sim-wide, if I recall properly, Vicky. I'm sure Letta will correct me if I'm wrong. Script errors. If there's an error in a script that in a piece of furniture that you're sitting on, for example, or a HUD has a script error, you'll get a message that there is a script error. You only see script errors for your own objects. Yep. And then we have show me when my friends log in or out. Now this one's a little confusing. It's less confusing than it used to be, but you can choose to show your friends logging in or out as toasts. You would enable that if you want the online offline notifications as toasts. Toasts are those little pop-ups that you see. They can be many things: group notices, local chat, IM chat, depending on how you have your options set. And you also have the option of in nearby chat and console. Enable this if you wish to see the online offline notifications in local and console chat. And then you have the option of only in nearby chat. If you enable this along with the previous option, you'll get the online offline notifications only in nearby chat, but not on the console. Well, before I move on, the console is the on-screen chat, not in the nearby chat window. Okay. One thing I do want to mention here, though, if you would like to have online offline notifications for only certain people, check out the contact sets. It allows you to group your friends as sets, and then you can set it up so that you only get online and offline notifications for specific sets. Come out to the contact sets class. We'll teach you all about it. Then we have the always show and never show pop-up options. You can disable the ones you want to disable by highlighting one or more and then clicking the arrow to move it to the other list. So if you're looking at the screen, I have some disabled. If I wanted to enable one of them, I could click on it, click the arrow to put it up in the other list or down. You can select multiples using the shift or control keys if you wanted to do it that way as well. Any questions about the dialog alerts? Script errors, yeah. Script errors, Second Life's not perfect. How do you turn off seeing them? Or how do you fix a script error? Just make sure that the boxes are unchecked there. Okay. When you're looking at in your preferences, make sure that when I have script errors, make sure that that box is unchecked. That's all. Correct, Catalina. Okay, Nozomi, what's the question? Throw it out there. I'll drink tea. And thank you. It will simply launch automatically. It's the same as if you were to disable the log out one. If you accidentally hit to log out, you would just log out without a warning. So, alrighty, seems like we got the questions dealt with. Let's move on to the Advanced tab. Nice, short, easy tab. Allow multiple viewers. May reduce stability and performance. This allows you to run multiple instances of Firestorm. Okay. Note that having multiple accounts logged in will affect your performance. It may also cause stability problems. Okay, but it will definitely affect your performance. How much depends on how good your computer is. Nozomi, it varies from person to person. I can log multiple accounts in on my machine, which is not a powerhouse machine by any stretch of the imagination. Mabon would actually describe... No, it will not kick. I can log in multiples on my machine with no problem. Mabon would tell you I'm running an antique. Second Life just likes my computer. What can I tell you? That's correct. You can have 2, 3, as many as your machine will handle. Just remember, you're going to take a performance hit. Okay? Your performance will be less. Next one here is allow login to other grids. Now, to start with, not all grids will support Firestorm. All this does allows you to use Firestorm on other grids. Please note that we do not offer support for Firestorm on other grids. We have our hands full in Second Life. With this one enabled, you will see a grid selection on your login screen. Vicky, I'm not sure if it would work on the FL grid or not. You'd have to see if it's actually listed on the grid picker on the login screen. Right now we're limited. No. Sorry. Next one here is show advanced menu. It says use at own risk. This simply adds the advanced menu to the top bar, the menu bar. One of several ways to get the advanced menu up. And show developer menu, again, use at own risk. This adds the develop menu to the top menu bar. Okay, I'm going to repeat myself a little bit here right now. If you are going to use the advanced or developer menu, please use the tip that we gave you at the beginning of the class about the menus detaching and staying open. And use them carefully. Pay attention to what you're doing in there. Sure they can, Mimi. We do go in, as Letta said, we do cover the menus in much more detail in the class. Kat, if you don't mind saving that one till after the class, we'll get to it. And then there is a don't click it, a reset all settings button. Clicking this will reset most of your settings to the defaults. By most, I mean the global settings, the ones that affect all the accounts that log in on that machine, not the per accounts. Any questions here? I really don't expect any. It's a pretty short tab. Alrighty, doesn't appear to be. So let's move on to the user interface tab. In particular, the general subtab on the user interface tab. We have lots of general subtabs. Right at the top, we have a slider here, UI scaling, and it says it may have side effects. You can adjust the slider here to choose the UI size. UI is your user interface. Note that having this set too high may mean that you cannot see all of the user interface. It may also break or make some aspects of the UI not look properly. Okay. For example, I have mine turned up at the moment. It shows I have 60 lindens. It's missing the other 0. I actually have 600 lindens here. And then we have a section here on hover tips. This allows you to set what hover tips, if any, you see. And your options are basic hover tips. You have to set this first, okay? You need this enabled to show any hover tips. And this will show hover tips on any scripted objects. And then you can add on all objects, so any object would show you a hover tip. And you can also add on land, which would show hover tips whenever your cursor was over the land. Some people love hover tips, some people hate them. They can be very handy. If you like them but not all the time, you have hover tip trigger delay. This allows you to choose how long your mouse has to hover over something before you actually get the hover tip. Okay, you remember that extended information in hover tips that I covered earlier? Right now, if you have the extended hover tips enabled, the delay doesn't work. It only works if you're using the standard ones. Okay, that will be fixed in the next release, from what I understand. So that's why, Vicky, you probably got the extended hover tips on, and that's why the hover tip delay isn't working for you. And then we have use pie menu. This allows you to have pie menus. It's on by default. A lot of people, since this is on by default, a lot of people don't realize that there is another option. There's a context style menu. That's the rectangular one. Some people love the pie menu. I call it cake, Nozomi. I call it my cake menu. I never got used to the pie menu. I know that makes me a bad person for some people, but I never got used to it. I love the context menu. And then there's show lag meter. Enable this if you want to display a small lag meter in the upper right hand corner of the menu bar. It's not actually a lag meter, it's more of a performance meter. It shows 2 bars, one on the left and one on the right. The one on the left is real-time packet loss, and the one on the right is real-time bandwidth being used. And then we have script dialog placement. This allows you to place certain dialogues in the top right. Script dialogues in the top right, for example. And group notices in top right. This affects not only your group notices, but your toasts and chiclets. Chiclets are the little conversation icons that you see, as well as the conversations chiclet and the notification chiclets. Well, I know it's been asked to be able to kill them optionally, Nozomi. Hopefully in a future release we will see that. And then we have a script dialogues per object. This controls how script dialogues from the same object are handled. And your choices are 1 dialogue per object, 1 per object and channel, or unconstrained. And then we have global flashing buttons override. This one's, in my opinion, badly worded as well, but this allows you to fine-tune how long and how fast your IM tabs flash, assuming you're using tabbed IMs. You can adjust the number of times the buttons flash and the rate that the buttons flash at. It says in hertz, think per second. And then we have a notification display settings. This is in the top right again. Pop-ups, console toasts. This is where you can fine-tune the way your toasts look and act. For the most part, I'm going to tell you to leave these alone, and I'm not going to cover them in a lot of detail. Do you really need to know what space between the lowest toast and the bottom is? No. Notification toast life, however, in seconds is a good one. If you don't like the fact that your notices disappear quickly, max that out to 300 seconds, which is 5 minutes. Can't keep them up permanently, but you can keep them up for longer. And then there's the tip toast life in seconds, the nearby chat toast in seconds, startup toast life in seconds, nearby chat toast fade time in seconds. Normal toast fade time, the gap between your toasts, the height of the overflow toast. Do you really need to adjust all of these things, folks? Okay. Width of your nearby chat toast. And then there's the option to show toasts in front of other windows, which will do just that. Any questions about this tab? This general sub-tab? I've known people in Nozomi that were married and divorced within 5 seconds. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. Glad I got it. Good. That is actually being worked on, that the toasts are moved down a bit. So all the chiclets up or down, depending on where you put them. Okay. We're going to move on to the font subtab. We'll take a look at that one after Cat. At the top we have font scheme. This allows you to choose one of the following fonts when from the drop-down menu: Deja Vu, Ubuntu Font Family, Liberation, Droid Sans, and Moby Sans. Okay. You can see samples of each font at that wiki link. I can't believe that's one of the first wiki links of the class. We're well into the class. Anyhow, they're also on the class notes. There's examples on there. There's a font size adjustment. This lets you change the size of the font. Note that the default is 0.0 and larger values may not work well. It does require a restart to see it. And then we have chat line spacing. This is the spacing between lines of text in the nearby chat or IM windows. Folder item height. This is the height of items in your inventory. If your inventory is looking a little squished for you, you can bump that up a little bit to make it look a little bigger. Any questions on the font tab? Coolness. In that case, let's move on. We're going to look at the Skins tab. Briefly, this is where you can choose the skin and color scheme that you want to use. Okay. Please note that there are differences in layout and icons with different skins. Screenshots of the skins as well as a list of the differences are available on our wiki. Yeah, see, we're getting into the, let's push the wiki part of the class. The skins has a class all of its own right now. However, there is an option here that you should pay attention to before, and I'm stressing the word before you start changing skins. And that's reset the toolbars to the skin's preferred layout when changing skins, and it says recommended. This will reset your toolbar choices to the defaults for whatever skin you select. So even though it says recommended, I would not recommend it unless you do not customize your toolbar layout, because with it checked, you would have to do it all over again if you change your skin. The Firestorm skin's got 4 color schemes. The vintage skin only has the classic color scheme and is designed to look and feel as close as possible to the original Phoenix skin. It really looks an awful lot like it. Meta Harper Modern comes in 2 color scheme options. The Starlight skin has 6 color schemes. And the Starlight CUI skin has 2 color schemes. That said, these are the 2 most customizable schemes available, as you get to choose the colors that you see. For more information on the skin options, please either see the wiki or come out to a skins class. It's good for a laugh. And we teach you how to play with the CUI skins, which I personally don't like the Starlight style skins, but I spent a couple hours playing around with the CUI skins just to see what you could do. It's pretty cool. Sure, Aloe. Okay, that's the viewer skins, not the skins that you wear. I'm just going to drink tea while you go on. Oh, okay, cool. So much for my drink of tea. Yep, exactly. Alright, so let's move on to the Firestorm tab. So Preferences, Firestorm tab, and General subtab. See, another General subtab. He's everywhere. Exactly, Barry. At the top here, we have Allow Remote Scripted Viewer Controls, aka RLVA or Restrained Love API. This enables RLV. It does require a restart to turn it on or off. Next one is Disable Teleport Screens. This disables the black teleport screen during all teleports. I love this one because I can continue communicating in an IM while I'm waiting for that teleport to go through, which, you know, we've all had it happen. You click teleport and you wait for a minute and a half before the teleport actually happens. Disable teleport beacons. This will hide the beacons you'll see when you teleport. If you teleport in someplace with a landing point from a landmark, let's pick on, no, I'm not going to pick on any particular region. A store, for example, you create a landmark. I'm going to come back for this when I've got the lindens for it. You create a landmark there, and they have a landing point set up. You TP in, wind up at the landing point, you'll see a beacon where that actual landmark was for. You can disable those beacons if you like. Disable login progress screens. This disables the black login progress screen. There is one downside that we've discovered to disabling your login progress screen, and that is you won't see the message of the day if you have them disabled. Disable the logout progress screen does exactly that. It simply disables the black logout progress screen. And then we have always res objects under the land group if possible. Okay, many regions are set to only let objects be res by group members. When creating an object, the viewer will attempt to set the group of the object if the avatar is in the same group as the land is set for. Sort contact lists by username even when display names are shown. Okay, everybody pay attention. Everybody wake up. Okay. This allows the contact list to be sorted by username instead of display names when you have display names chosen in preferences. Please leave this disabled if you have display names disabled. Otherwise it will break your contact list somewhat. Okay, so if you don't have display names enabled in your viewer, don't have this checked. Please, please, please. Render blocked or muted avatars as a particle cloud. Will render muted avatars as a nice putrid green cloud instead of gray. Hide empty system folders in inventory. This will hide any system folders in your inventory that are empty. So if you were to go in, delete all the landmarks out of your landmarks folder, and then enable this, you would not see your landmarks folder. And then we have enable the LSL client bridge. This enables the Firestorm bridge. It is recommended. You can see that wiki page for more on what the bridge is and what it actually does. Basically, it adds some functionality to the viewer. To the right of that, we have enable bridge flight assist. The bridge can offer flight assist functionality if this is enabled. Note that you should not wear any other scripted flight assist if you turn this on, as they will conflict, and it does require the bridge to be enabled. All this does is allows you to fly above the height limit, which the Linden Lab has now moved up to, 4,000 meters, 5,000 meters, something like that, 4096. Okay. So if you want to fly around at 6,000 meters, you're still going to need a flight assist, but most people aren't going to fly around up that high. Any questions on this tab? Red beacon. Red beacon's a big red line. You'll see a big red line someplace with a little red arrow at some point on your screen pointing towards that red line. That's a beacon. We can, maybe if you want, after the class, we can show you that. Nozomi, throw it out there. And then we'll decide if we're going to answer it or if you're going to wait. I'm not exactly sure. I think that went away with the LL code. I think Linden Lab killed that on us. I actually have to test it. Alright, so let's move on to the protection subtab where I'm going to scare some of you. At the top we have block left click sitting on objects. Some objects are set such that a left click will result in sitting on them rather than touching. You can enable this if you want to avoid accidentally sitting on some objects. So why is this in the protection tab? Griefers in the past have created invisible prims that they would surround you with. Anytime you click anywhere on your screen, they've got you with either a deformer or an orbiter or a cage or whatever they happen to be using. Okay. Note that this will prevent all left click sitting. You will need to explicitly right click and select sit from the menu. And then we have allow scripts to show map UI. This uses the LL map destination feature. Certain teleport systems open the map when clicked for teleporting. Enable this if you want to use this feature. And then we get to the revoke permissions where I'm going to try to scare some of you. This removes an object's permission to animate or control your input. If this is not done, objects can retain permission to animate your avatar indefinitely. Is anybody here unclear on what indefinitely means? It doesn't mean until you relog. It doesn't mean until you do a clean install. It doesn't mean until you leave the sim. It means forever. Okay. Your options here are never, which is the original behavior. That would mean that objects can retain permissions to always animate your avatar. Revoke on sit revokes permissions when you sit on an object. So this one's not very good because if you sit on an object that has animations, you're not going to be able to use the animations, right? And the sane one here, revoke on stand. This revokes permissions when you stand up from sitting on the object. This is the recommended setting here. And revoke on sit and stand will revoke permissions after you either sit or stand. I'm going to ramble a little bit about this. I know the class is running long, but oh well. Griefers will create these objects. They will grab your permissions by having you sit on them and then take that object. Anytime that object is on the same region that you're on, that person can animate your avatar. Okay, so revoke on stand. Check the box, folks. That's Ed's recommendation. And then we have texture lag protection. This automatically hides large objects with a high texture area. Enabling this will cause objects with large texture area to not be rendered. This can be used to combat griefing done via specific objects. And then there's a threshold. This sets the threshold area to use. Prims over this value will not be rendered. It may cause some normal objects to not display either. Define large texture area. Well, the default there is 5,000 square meters. Okay. A note about this though. We have a 100 meter diameter sandbox with a texture on it. With this enabled at the default 5,000 square meters, it still renders fine for me. So I recommend having that one on. And then we have enable spam protection. These items allow you to protect yourself against various forms of spam, such as might be used in griefing attacks. Your options here are maximum lines in a single message. This limits the number of lines of text that will not be blocked. Over this number will be blocked. I actually bumped that number up by 10 because the letter and I found that the note card reader was triggering the spam protection. Maximum number of events from the same source indicates the maximum number of events that can be received from a single source in 2 seconds before the source is blocked. I bump it up by 10. That's correct, Vicky. I also bump up the next one, the maximum events from the same source. I bump it up by 10 as well. Next one is sound play request multiplier. And if a script sends more than 2 times this number of requests within 2 seconds to play a sound, it gets blocked. And sound preload request multiplier. If a script sends more than 2 times this number of requests within 2 seconds to preload a sound, it gets blocked. Quite often we get asked, why is it 2 times this number? And all I'm going to say is one word: devs. Devs decide the defaults usually. And quite frankly, I didn't ask. Now, the spam protection here has a button, unblock all spam sources. This will unblock all blocked spam sources. A note though, this does not add these objects or people to your mute list, or, well, it's called block list now. I keep forgetting that. Mute makes more sense to me than blocked, but you can accidentally mute somebody with the spam protection. Clicking this or relogging will clear it. And then we have notify about objects, items from objects incoming too fast. My tongue's not working properly. This will show notifications about throttled incoming object offers from objects. We've all done it. You know, you go out, you buy something, you go to unpack the box, and objects incoming too fast, preview disabled. Okay. Notify about items from other residents coming in too fast. Same thing, it will show the notifications about throttled incoming object offers from avatars. And then there's the incoming object offers throttle threshold slider. This is the number of objects offered within a second duration before the throttling actually starts. Any questions on the protection tab here? You could be griefed by scripts playing sounds, and they can actually, a script can actually preload a sound so that you're going to hear it the first time it gets played, because a lot of times you're not going to hear a sound the first time right in time, okay, because it's not in your cache. It's very much like logging in with an empty cache. All the textures that you see have to be cached before you actually see them. And you can be griefed by people hitting you with a sound, repeating it over and over and over and over and over and over and over. There's actually a bug right now with sounds in the latest release of Firestorm. That's why you're not hearing them the first time it's played. I haven't encountered that one, Kix. We can investigate that one after the class if you like to. We're going to be busy after the class today. Cool. So right now we're going to move on to the avatar subtab. And right at the top here we have amount that the avatar's head follows the mouse. You can set both of these sliders to 0 if you don't want your avatar's head following your mouse cursor for unfocused mouse movement. You know how you just move your mouse across the screen, you're not focused on anything in particular. Your camera's not focused on anything. You move your mouse and your head moves up and down, left and right. You can disable that by dropping them to 0. Okay. They do not affect whether your head moves to look at something when you focus on something. You can adjust the vertical range that the heads move, and you can adjust the horizontal range that your avatar's head moves. Next one, don't send avatar physics to server. This is originally for V1 client compatibility, for V1 clients that didn't have avatar physics. Basically, if you don't want others to see your avatar physics movement but wish to see it on yourself and others, then you can enable that one. This does allow people on viewers that do not have avatar physics to see you properly, as in they won't see holes in your chest or things like that. Or, well, they shouldn't. And then we have the selection beam particle effects. There's the two windows there. We're not going to go into detail with them. There's something that you need to play with in order to learn. I could sit here and describe them for an hour and you're still not going to be any further ahead until you actually play with them. However, below that, there's the beam updates per second. This controls how many particles the stream uses. So the more further to the right, the more dense your particle stream will be. And scale, this is the width or size of the particle beam effect. We also have enable selection beam. You can disable or enable the display of your particle beam here. And then we have SL particle chat. This allows scripts to do funky things with particles. Okay, who's going to ask me what that means? Somebody always asks. Okay, we asked that question of the developer that did the SL particle chat feature. And you know as much as we do because that's exactly the answer that we got. It allows scripts to do funky things with particles. Cat, that's exactly right. It allows you to do funky things with the particles beam. Any other questions on this tab? Personally, I leave it off. It's a matter of preference. If you're going to use scripts to affect your particle beam, you'd want it on. Alrighty. So let's look at the command line subtab briefly here. At the top, enable usage of the chat bar as a command line. If this is enabled, then the commands given below, except where noted, will be available for use. All of the commands can be changed from the supplied defaults. The behavior can't, but the actual commands can be. And that's all we're going to say about this particular tab for now, as we have it covered in our odds and ends 2 class. So if you're interested in what some of these commands do and how to use them, check out our odds and ends 2 class. I wonder how many people are getting the idea we like you to come to these classes. And we're going to move on to the wind light subtab. Right at the top we have automatically change environment to region or parcel settings. If this is enabled, your wind light settings will change if you TP into a region or walk into a parcel that has region level or parcel level wind light enabled. This is the same as in the top menu bar, world menu, environment editor. Environment settings always use parcel or region settings. You can disable this to stop your WinLight setting from changing when you move through Second Life. And here's a tip for you. If you disable that one, go to your quick prefs and choose a WinLight setting from in there. You can have it stay all the time. Okay. For example, if you wanted it at noon, a noon light setting, choose the A 12 p.m. and have that disabled, and it will always be noon for you. You have that checked. You want it unchecked to not see it. And then we have crossfade region environment sky preset changes made from quick prefs. This dynamically transitions the change. And crossfade region environment water presets. Same thing. It creates a fade in, fade out effect. And then we have the Phoenix WinLight Share. It says experimental. You can enable using the use Phoenix parcel WinLight sharing. If you have it enabled and you go to a parcel that has parcel level WinLight up, you're going to get a little pop-up. Do you want to use this setting? If you're using it, but you hate the pop-ups, there are 3 auto-apply options here. You can auto-apply WinLight settings from a friend's land. You can auto-apply WinLight settings from a group's land that you belong to. Or you can auto-apply WinLight settings from any parcel. And then we have crossfade region environment changes for parcel WinLight. This allows dynamic changes between WinLight settings when a region with WinLight settings has parcels with their own different settings. Simply allows the fade in, fade out thing. Any questions about the WinLight tab? Yeah, if you don't have the automatic thing set, the crossfade will work. Well, no, it won't work as well, honestly, because you're still going to be pausing. You're going to have to be hitting the allow, which cuts into the time. You're quite welcome. Yeah, it will apply, just not for the parcel level. Okay, we'll explore that one after the class as well. Just remind me, because I've probably forgotten half the things I said we'd talk about after the class already. Let's move on to the Build subtab. At the top here, we have default object parameters. This allows you to change the parameters of a prim when you first create it. Well, parts of it. You can adjust the X, Y, and Z size, and yes, I said Z, I'm Canadian. This sets the size of the prim in meters. Nozomi, that requires code that we need to get relicensed and can't right now. Material lets you choose the default material. And then there's a pivot point section here. This allows you to change the pivot point of an object. There's a checkbox here, show axis arrow on root prim position. This moves the axis from the center of the object to the center of the root prim, because a root prim is not always in the center of an object. And the values for the pivot point, if you check values or percent, will change that to the value, to a percentage value. And here's one. Enable highlighting of selected prims. This shows the highlight outline on prims that you select. Deselecting this can increase your viewer performance when it's a multi-prim object selected. The reason being, the more you render on your screen, the worse your performance is going to be. And if you want proof of that, ask me after the class and I'll give you a quick exercise to prove it to you. The next one is use old set object for sale behavior. This uses the old style for setting objects for sale. This is not recommended. In other words, no check mark in there, please. Because using the new method, you click for sale, you specify the price, and then you click apply. Only then does the object become for sale. This safeguards against an object being purchased for the default 10 lindens while you're setting the correct price. In the past, you would set something for sale and it was automatically for sale for 10 lindens, even if you planned on selling it for 1.5 million lindens. Okay? So if somebody was around when you first set it for sale, they could buy it for 10 lindens. This just protects against that. Next is save scripts edited from inventory as mono. This allows you to set it so that scripts edited in your inventory, not in an object, but in your inventory, will compile with mono rather than LSL2. Mono is theoretically a far better way to compile your scripts. Any questions about this tab? And I hear that they're practicing for the air show outside. I hope that's not causing too much noise. Cool. Alright, so let's move on to the tags subtab. The top three options here will not work in Second Life due to changes that Linden Lab made recently. They are included here in Firestorm just in case you use it on another grid where viewer tags do work. Okay, and I'm just going to blitz through these, okay, using a list, tag color based on viewer, and what tags do you want to see. However, this one works. Choose your own color. You can use the drop-down menu to choose the color of your own tag. And if you're going to do that, you want to check show your own color, because otherwise you're not going to see the custom color that you set for your own tag. And then we have color usernames differently. This allows you to see usernames in a different color. This assumes that you have display and usernames enabled. This one's cool. Color name tags based on distance. This allows you to show colored tags for avatars in chat range, shout range, and beyond shout range, as well as choose the colors for those. So, for example, I have this set up right now. Anybody in chat range is in green. And then show distance in tag. This will show how far away an avatar is in their tag. For example, Zoe is 12.2 meters away from me. Tara is 13.1. Ilsa's 4.73. You get the idea. And then we have Z offset correction. This allows you to adjust the height of people's tags. You can bump them all up. You can bump them all down. Your choice. Any questions on the tags? Bonus. No, I'm Ed. I'm not Cousin It. I don't have that avatar. I do have that avatar, Vicky. That's a that's a display name. You'd have to reset your display name. Xenia. It is. The Linden Lab, the showing the viewer that they're on, yeah, they decided that was a bad idea. And they made it illegal. We could turn it back on and get kicked off the third-party viewer list and all our users banned, the viewer blocked and all that good stuff, but we don't feel like doing that. We think you like using the Firestorm Viewer. So. Yeah, in some cases it was. It's a glitch every once in a while. We're not sure what Linden Lab has done with the server code about that. It did get reported to them. Well, they're there because you can use them on other grids. Catalina, simply by detaching them. Thank you both personally and on behalf of the Phoenix team for coming to this class, as well as for using our viewer. You, the users, are the reason that our viewers are as popular as they are, and I think you all deserve the credit for the popularity. And my personal heartfelt thanks for taking the time to come out to a class.